Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Not all meals are created equal. For instance, breakfast has the spicy egg McMuffin for a limited time, and lunch doesn't. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
My name is Happy Gilmore. I haven't swung a club in years.
You know what you gotta do.
Grip it and rip it.
Or... Oh, now that is some Happy Gilmore.
Everyone is talking about the comeback kid, Happy Gilmore.
Happy Knee.
Yeah, baby!
Happy Gilmore 2, only on Netflix July 25th. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
American soccer fans, welcome to episode 158 of the USA Soccer Cast. We are bringing you everything about the U.S. national teams, the players, the leagues, and everything else that impacts the game of soccer in these United States. I'm Donald Wine. We are going to have an informative episode today. We're talking 2026 World Cup and some ticket info that just came out. There have always been questions about how this ticket process will work for this World Cup. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, as I mentioned, we're discussing the World Cup. And one of the biggest things that are be coming up this fall is the World Cup draw. FIFA is apparently about to say, Viva Las Vegas. According to several reports, Las Vegas will host the 2026 FIFA World Cup draw on December 5th. Now, initially, these reports that were out there said that the Sphere, which is a venue I absolutely want to check out at some point, would be the venue for this draw. However, sources close to the Sphere confirmed directly to me that they will not be hosting the World Cup draw. The Sphere is booked on December 5th for the kickoff of the Zac Brown Band's residency. But still, there are plenty of places in Las Vegas that would be big enough and have the amenities required to host the World Cup draw. Las Vegas would be an absolutely awesome backdrop for the draw. 48 teams, of course, including the United States, Mexico, and Canada, will learn who they face in the group stage. Las Vegas is not new to this. They also held the 1994 World Cup draw and obviously would be hosting this draw despite not hosting a match during the tournament. Allegiant Stadium, which is the home of the Raiders, was passed over by FIFA for the tournament. However, there have been more calls recently to consider, or reconsider, I should say, Allegiant Stadium as a venue, given that it's indoor, and after the Club World Cup had widespread complaints over the heat, humidity, and severe weather conditions. Now, currently, there are 10 teams that have qualified to join the co-hosts in Canada, Mexico, and the United States in the field of 48. We have Australia, Iran, Japan, Jordan, South Korea, Uzbekistan, Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, and New Zealand. Obviously, they're going to be filled by the other teams that are going to be competing in World Cup qualifying this fall. And also, there will be 2 spots that won't be filled until the Interconfederation playoffs in March. And like in 2022, that will be reflected in the draw. They will have a slot for one of those Interconfederation playoff winners, and they will be distributed in groups like they were a team. And whoever wins that slot in March will then get plugged into that particular group. However, each team that is qualified at that point for 2026 will likely get to undergo the time-honored tradition that we have in Vegas of hoping they get lucky and getting into a group that works for them and allows them to get out and compete further and further in the 2026 World Cup as this entire tournament takes focus. Now, we switch gears to World Cup tickets. And there are a few $1 million questions about tickets and how it'll work. We're going to address some questions after the break because I think this is a time where we get some information, we have some information, and we don't have some information. So it's good to address what we do know and what we don't. What we do have information on is the first pre-sale for World Cup tickets. That will be called the Visa pre-sale draw. It begins on September 10th. It is exclusive to Visa cardholders around the world. So if you have a Visa credit card, you are eligible. A Visa debit card as well, but a credit card would be preferable. Those who enter the draw, they get to apply between September 10th and September 19th for a chance to purchase tickets in the first phase of sales. To participate in this draw, again, if you have a Visa credit card of any kind, you log into FIFA.com/tickets. You create an account if you don't have one already. It's called the FIFA ID. You create one of those, and you complete the application form at any time during that 10-day window. If you apply on September 10th or September 19th, in theory, it does not matter when you apply. You have an equal opportunity to be selected. So again, if you do not have a FIFA ID account, go to FIFA.com/tickets. You can go there right now while you're listening to my voice and register. Every sales phase of tickets are going to require that. They are going to be done through FIFA.com with the exception of the U.S. soccer draw. So you want to go ahead and create your account now so you don't have to worry about it later. Go ahead and do that now because that is going to be important as we move along. Following a random selection, FIFA will notify the successful account holders by email no earlier than September 30th. So it's going to take about 10 days to conduct this random draw. Those winners, when they are selected, will be assigned a date and time slot in October during which they will be able to go on to FIFA.com/tickets and purchase their tickets to the World Cup. For those who are not successful, there will be other sales phases through FIFA where fans from around the world can apply for 2026 World Cup tickets. Now, in the press release for this and in the, all the information about this, there was something that is very important and unlike any World Cup we have had recently. But since they put it in there, I want to say it verbatim. And that is, quote, a match ticket does not guarantee admission to a host country, and fans should visit each host country's government website today for entry requirements, end quote. That obviously does not apply to fans of the host nations of the United States, Canada, or Mexico who wish to attend matches in their home country. However, anyone who wishes to travel across borders needs to check the entry requirements for each country. Of course, any of you listening to my voice who happens to live outside the United States and do not possess a U.S. passport, this is mainly what it's about. So please check the process for you for getting a visa to visit the United States if you require one. We will leave it there. Next up, we're going to answer some important questions about how fans like you can acquire tickets to the 2026 World Cup. We will discuss some of those topics after this break, so stick around.
Everyone who works at Starbucks, full or part-time, gets stock in our company, simply for being part of our company. That's why we call our employees partners, because when Starbucks succeeds, our people do too. And that success turns into down payments, family vacations, and so much more. At Starbucks, benefits like company stock are just the start. Learn more about how we support partners at starbucks.com/partners.
You open the Walmart app and boom! The Reebok and Hanes styles that keep your kiddos on their A game delivered in as fast as an hour. That's right, those comfy Hanes Performance Crew socks they love in the app. And the coolest shirts, shorts, hoodies, and leggings from Reebok? Yep, Walmart's got them. They'll feel so focused in their new gear they won't even notice you freaking out on the sidelines. Shop Reebok and Hanes in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Subject to availability, fees and restrictions apply.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Big news! Verizon Small Business Days are here. From August 11th through 17th. Book your appointment today to make our experts your experts. Get a free tech check, special deals, and personalized advice. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness. We got you covered. Verizon Business.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
Hey everyone, are you looking for the latest gear for your U.S. national teams, Major League Soccer, the NWSL, or any other team in the world of soccer? The USA Soccercast has affiliate partnerships that are ready to help you out. Head to linktree.com/USA Soccercast, where we have links to Homage, Fanatics, the MLS Store, and Breaking Team. You can get the jersey, shirt, hat, or accessory you're looking for to support your team, while also saving some money and helping this show in the process. Again, linktree.com/USA Soccercast. Click on the links and get your gear. And we thank you as always for your support of the show. We are back, and as I mentioned before the break, there have been tons of questions about how you, me, everyone can get tickets to the biggest sporting event in the world. There are less than 11 months to go before the 2026 World Cup, and we finally have some details about the first main sales phase. We talked about that before the break. But what about everything else? It's my hope over the next several minutes to give you some of that information that we know so far. And I want to stress to you all that some of this information can change. There are some moving parts. But as of now, this is some information that you can use to create your plans with your friends and family if you haven't done so already. And if you're already in the midst of making those plans, add some of this information to your planning. I've received questions from listeners, friends, colleagues, strangers alike, and I want to address some of those most asked questions now. So let's get right into it. The first question is, how many tickets can people purchase? Can my friend just buy tickets for me? No, that's not necessarily how it works. And honestly, if you are in a group of 4 or 3 or 2, or if it's a family of 10, it doesn't matter how big your group is, everyone's going to want to complete the sales process. They're going to want to apply because you're not going to be able to get tickets for everyone. If you have a group of more than 4, chances are you will not be able to buy tickets for all of your group. The max that usually is allowed to be purchased if you win a particular sales phase is 4 tickets. So if you are in a group of more than 4, you will not be able to get tickets for everybody. And more than one person in your group will have to apply. But I also say that everyone in your group should apply at the same time for all of these phases, because that just increases your odds of people in your group getting tickets and getting enough that all of you are covered. I'm sure some of you out there are like me and my friends. We have our spreadsheets going of who wants to go to which matches, and eventually we're going to settle in on apply for the max, see what happens, because not everyone's going to get tickets to this World Cup, or to at least the matches that you want to go to. And if you're in a big group, it's going to be more difficult to get everybody tickets to those games, and especially to sit together. This is not going to be a World Cup where you're like, hey, we want 10 seats on the midfield line and all of them together in one row so we can all sit together. This is not that type of event. People are going to have to understand that you get tickets and then you figure it out later. And so if you have a group, I would stress to you that everyone in your group, again, go to FIFA.com/tickets, apply for tickets individually, and then you figure out collectively how many tickets you have and how many tickets you need and figure it out that way, because it's better to do that than to be left with, okay, we only have 2 tickets for 10 people and you have to figure that process out. So can your friend buy tickets for you? Yeah, sure they can if you were in a small group, but it is better that everyone apply because it only increases your odds. Speaking of increasing your odds, that leads me to my next question. How do we increase our chances of getting tickets? There is no foolproof plan. There is no plan that is guaranteed, but I would recommend that you sign up for all the sales phases you can. And also join everything that you can that has access to any allotment of tickets. Join US Soccer Insiders. Join one of the main supporters groups like the American Outlaws, who might, I stress might, get added chances in any lottery that US Soccer does. Bar 1776 and Sammers as well, they may have access beyond what US Soccer Insiders might. But I would sign up for everything you can. If you have a Visa credit card, sign up for it. If you have a FIFA main sales phase, sign up for that. If you are a US Soccer Insider and you get information, sign up for that. You only increase your odds if you have all of these different options. Now, I will say that some of these cost money, and they may not be money that you have, and I am cognizant of that. But again, if you have the means, I would recommend it. If you don't have the means, I would consider adding that to the overall cost of what you're trying to pay to attend this World Cup, and factor that into whatever budget that you may have and go for it. Because again, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you will be able to only have better chances of getting the tickets that you want. The next question is, do you have to bid for the national team you want to see, and or can you bid for games at a particular stadium? And in light of that, will FIFA make it easy to follow specific teams? And the answer is yes. There are a couple of ways you can get tickets. You could get tickets for individual matches. If you want to see, for example, England versus Ecuador in one, United States versus South Korea in another, you could do that. But you can also do 2 things. You can apply to follow a team. It's called the TST package. And that means you would get a ticket to every match for that team as far as they go. So if you select Brazil, for example, and they go to the final, if you had a TST package, in theory, you would receive a ticket to every match they play, including the final. The other option is if you want to get a package of getting a ticket to every match at a particular venue, like every match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta or Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. You could do that. And if they have 6 games at that stadium, you would get tickets to each of those games. Now, that does not include the final. So if you try to select the venue package for MetLife Stadium, which is currently slated to hold the final, that final ticket is not going to be included in that. But for everything else, for the most part, all of the games at that particular stadium would be included in the venue package. So if you applied to that, you would get a ticket to all of those games. So if you live in a city that is having matches, or you're playing to be in a city for, a bunch of the tournament, for United States fans who are trying to go to LA for 2 games or to Seattle for a game, if you apply for that, in theory, you should be able to get tickets to all of the games in that stadium, including, for those cases, the United States men's national team games. So you could try that route and try to get tickets. And again, like, some venues are going to be more in demand than others. And as we get towards that draw, as I mentioned, on December 5th, once we know where all of these teams are going to be playing, then the demand only gets worse. The next question is arguably the biggest one. And that question is, how much are tickets going to be? And a lot of numbers have been thrown out there and nothing has been confirmed. Any numbers you see out there are not official numbers. But this is what I can tell you. This will be the most expensive World Cup of all time. I personally am planning for tickets to be in the range of $400 to $500 a piece for the group stage, and even higher as you progress. If they are lower, great. I hope they are. But that is what I am planning for. That's what some of my friends are planning for. $400 to $500 for tickets, because that's honestly some of the numbers that we have heard, and we've just kind of upped it from there and said, hey, let's just plan for the worst case scenario. There will also be dynamic pricing for tickets for Americans, which I detest, but that's where we are. So I would stress to everybody that this is not going to be a cheap ticket. Expect to pay a lot for a ticket to a World Cup game, particularly one that is in high demand. This will not be for everyone. That's the part I hate the most about this. But I don't want to sugarcoat it for y'all and give you a false sense of hope that you can pay $100 and walk into a stadium to see England play, or see the United States play, or see Argentina or Brazil. That's not going to happen. Plan accordingly. Plan for the worst case scenario. If it comes in lower than that, then great. You have more money to spend on some other part of this entire experience that is going to be expensive. So, again, you may be hearing lots of numbers out there. None of those numbers are confirmed. I would say, for me, I'm planning for $400, $500 a ticket. I'm hoping it won't be more than that, because that would be just devastating for a lot of people, myself included. But that's what I'm planning for, and that's what I'm bankrolling for. That's what I'm budgeting for, and that's the number that I hopefully will be the top end range of the tickets that we end up getting. A next question that was asked a lot that's kind of related to that is, it seems like they're planning on pricing out pretty much everybody for even just group stage tickets. Do you plan on seeing a major price drop at all? Because we're looking at Super Bowl prices already. Isn't the goal to fill every stadium? And I hear you. The goal should be to have every stadium full to the brim with not a single stitch of seat left unattended or left unfilled. But do not plan on a major price drop. This next part is not hyperbole. This will be the biggest sporting event of all time. Let me say that again. This will be the biggest sporting event in the history of the world. People are going to complain about how high these ticket prices are, but every game will have a lot of people applying for tickets. Case in point, 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, I should say, the United States versus England had 3 million people apply for tickets. 3 million ticket applications for a 60,000 seat stadium. That's not 3 million people. That's 3 million ticket applications. And like in the case of me, that a ticket application included 4 tickets for me. So we're talking about tens of millions of ticket requests for that one game. And only 60,000 people had the ability to go, because the 60,000 tickets were in that stadium. It's the same thing for these stadiums. As big as these stadiums are, there's only so big it can get. There's only so many tickets they can distribute. I want to let you guys in a little history if you haven't heard this before. The World Cup that grossed the most money of all time is the 1994 World Cup. The most attended World Cup, also 1994. We're 32 years almost removed from that. And that's still the World Cup that has had the biggest attendance and made the most money. Those records are going to be absolutely shattered by the 2026 World Cup. And that's before adding the 16 extra teams that we're getting, because we're up to 48 teams now. And as a result, 40 extra games in this World Cup. They're expecting well over 6 million people to attend World Cup games. And the demand is going to be in the tens of millions easily. So because of that, do not expect a price drop. They have not done it for a World Cup before, so do not expect it now. But just when you think about that, the sheer demand that will be present for this World Cup, for every game, does not matter who's playing in it. And again, that may increase tenfold for the final, where, I'm going to go on a limb and say at least 25 million people are going to try and apply for the final, because why not? World Cup final is the World Cup final. Everyone wants to be at one. And so when you think about it that way, that's why some of these ticket questions are important, and why you kind of have to budget and plan and not anticipate anything like happened with the Club World Cup or Gold Cup or any other sporting event that you have attended in your life. This is not going to be one of those events. This is different. And because of the demand, because of, all of the interests, there is going to be a lot of money made from this, because they're going to price a lot of people out. And maybe that's a way to kind of drive down demand, but the demand is not going to be outweighed or out jumped by supply. There will be way more demand than supply will ever be able to accommodate. So keep that in your mind as you make your plans about next summer. One question I got, which is an interesting one, is can we apply to matches? Can we apply for tickets to matches on the same day? And that's unclear. In 2022, you cannot get tickets to more than 2 matches in one day, and they could not be one right after the other. But most of the matches were in Doha. They were in one city or just surrounding, one city. So it was a little bit easier to attend a couple of matches in a day. And I know I did it a couple times. I know some people who went to 2, 3, 4 matches in a day, because you were able to get around town and maybe miss kickoff at a couple of them, but you were able to be able to experience a lot of World Cup games in a short period of time. Here, obviously, it's the United States, it's Mexico, it's Canada, everything is spread out. There's only really a couple of, it's really only one corridor where you could probably go to 2 matches in one day, and that's the Northeast, where you have Foxborough, you have, East Rutherford, New Jersey, and then you have Philadelphia. In theory, you could be able to go to a game at MetLife in New Jersey and then train down to Philadelphia for a night game. It's in theory possible, but it's unclear if they're going to let you apply to do that. It's unclear if they'll let you apply to a game at MetLife and then at the Link in a night game or in Foxborough. And to be honest, with the match schedule changing, I'm not going to look at it. Some of these matches could switch around based on what Gianni Infantino has said about putting more daytime matches in some of the dome venues that we will have. So some of these matches and the times could change. And so I'm not going to look and see, hey, is there a possibility to catch a game in New York and Boston, or New York and Philadelphia? I'm sure there is a couple of opportunities there, but it's unclear if they're going to let you try to do that. Now, one question is, are tickets available now? And the answer is yes, there are some tickets that are available to be purchased now. Fans can already purchase hospitality packages, which are inclusive of match tickets, and that is at FIFA.com/hospitality. Now, there are some other people out there. There are a couple people purporting to be, brokers for these hospitality packages. I'm sure you've gotten some emails from stadiums that you have attended a soccer event or a sporting event at. They have sent you information about hospitality tickets that you can book through them. FIFA encourages everybody to purchase through that link I just mentioned, FIFA.com/hospitality, because there are a lot of unauthorized people who are looking to make a quick buck off of people and don't actually have those tickets. Now, hospitality tickets are uber expensive. I mentioned the regular tickets are going to be expensive. I'm not even going to tell you the prices of what I've seen for some of these hospitality packages, but they exist. And so if that is in your wheelhouse, that's something that you wanting to do, go to that link, FIFA.com/hospitality, and you can check out the packages there. Now, I'll note that the US, Mexico, and Canada games are not listed yet. That will be done separately. So if you're looking for any other team, you can get those prices there. But I urge you, sticker shock will be a thing when you look at those numbers. The next question. Hey man, can I just buy tickets on Ticketmaster or StubHub? Again, I want to stress that this is not going to be like a ticket to any other regular sporting event or concert that you have attended in your life. The only official reseller right now The only official reseller platform is FIFA.com/tickets. I keep telling you this link because that is where they centralize this. The one thing that they actually do kind of well is that in previous World Cups, what they have done is essentially eliminate the price gouging of tickets. Tickets could only be resold through their platform. They could only be accessed through their platform. So you couldn't take them and put them on StubHub or put them on Ticketmaster or SeatGeek or something like that for resale. They can only be resold via FIFA, and they can only be resold for face value plus like 5%. So it was not a lot of extra jump. So a $100 ticket was like $105 on the resale platform. And that was because FIFA said, hey, we don't want anyone making money but us. They took a 5%, I think, whatever the 5% jump was, they took that as their commission, and that was that. So in essence, you're getting tickets for face value via the resale platform. But it is a free-for-all. It is not for the faint of heart. We had, again, in 2022, I had a group of like 10 friends, all of us going almost basically 24 hours a day. There was somebody online looking at these tickets to see if something was happening and saying, hey, this, 4 tickets to this game just popped up. Does anybody want them? And that sort of thing. So bear in mind that it's going to be a free-for-all. Anyone in the world can access those tickets, and they disappear almost as soon as they're listed. So you have to do a lot of refreshing. There's a lot of luck involved. You got to be quick to the draw. But you will be able to sort by the category ticket, category 1, 2, 3. You can sort by which of those categories you want and the match you want. You can see what's available at any given time, but that's going to be well down the line. So don't think about that maybe until early 2026 when that resale platform will open after all of the other sales phases have concluded. The next question is about travel during these games. Of course, we're going to be spread across the entire North American continent. And the question is, how will movement between borders be expedited for those going to games? And this is a great question that, again, I stressed at the top of the show that information can change. This is that time that you need to listen to the information that I have, knowing that it very well could change by the time this podcast is over. But in past World Cups, your ticket was your visa to get into the country. You still had to apply for your visa, obviously depending on the country. In Qatar and Brazil, I had to apply for a visa. In Australia and New Zealand, it was very quick. It took like 5 seconds, but I did need a ticket because Americans didn't need they just need to do the e-visa to get into those countries. Canada, obviously, we didn't need to show anything because we're Americans. We could just flow across the border at that time. But if you showed that you had a ticket to even one game and you required a visa to get into that country, that was all you needed to have your visa approved in most instances. Of course, that is not the case anymore, especially for attending matches in the United States. I'm not going to speak for what Canada and Mexico are doing, but I have not heard anything extraordinary coming out of those countries with regards to entry requirements. But right now in the United States, as we all know, there are several countries who are under a travel ban, and their movement is restricted or banned from the United States. The countries that are under a total ban from entering the United States are nationals of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Congo Brazzaville, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. There are another 7 countries that have partial travel restrictions, and those countries are Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Now, in recent weeks and days, we have seen the United States reject teams from receiving the visas necessary to compete in the United States. There was a Venezuelan youth baseball team that couldn't compete in the Baseball World Series because their visas were denied. Here in D.C., the Ethiopian national team is facing DC United this weekend. Ethiopia's national team had 10 people, including 6 players, whose visas were also denied to enter the country for that friendly. And so when you think about the movement between countries, this obviously we are in a better position as Americans because we can stay in the country and attend most of the games. But even we will have to figure out what it means for us to enter Mexico or Canada for these games. But going back to the ban, I will just say that Iran has qualified for the World Cup already. I mentioned that. And they currently cannot enter the United States. Venezuela has a really good shot at qualifying. I just mentioned their youth baseball team just got denied to come in for the Baseball World Series. Burundi, also listed here on this under this partial ban, has a decent chance of qualifying right now. And now there are even conflicting reports out of Brazil over the status of Brazilians and whether they will be allowed into the country for the World Cup. So FIFA is going to have to work with the US government, the Trump administration, Canada, Mexico, to make sure this doesn't happen. And especially players and fans will have the ability to enter the countries that they need to play and watch the World Cup. They can't bend on that. And again, all of this information could change, but the competition is paramount. And they have to make sure that Iran and the other teams that qualify for this are able to get in and be able to compete in this World Cup. We can't have last-minute replacements or teams that are shorthanded. That has to be something that they need to deal with, and they need to get started on it yesterday. The final question that I have is in relation to the Club World Cup and everything that happened at the Club World Cup. And the question is, what did FIFA learn from the Club World Cup, and how will they use the info they learned to help with the World Cup? And I already talked about the pricing aspect of things, the reduction of price and things like that. Maybe they reduce the price initially, but once the price is set, that is going to be the price because there are too many people who will pay whatever price there is to get into a World Cup. So they're not going to lower the price once they set it. And so the hope is that they kind of go back to 2018, 2014 kind of levels. Even 2022 wasn't super expensive for these games, but hopefully they get back to that level. But again, we have to wait and see. But there's a couple of things that they learned in other aspects of how to put this World Cup together. The first thing is in June and July in the United States, it's hot. It's humid. It storms here. Weather will be a factor. And of course, Gianni Infantino kind of said, we need to have more indoor venues. And bruh, I'm here to tell you, look, there's not that many left. So if you're going to move this match schedule around, you need to do it now. And you need to figure out what that match schedule is going to be so people are prepared. But I think also they're just going to utilize the indoor stadiums that they currently have right now. There is Vancouver, there's Dallas, there's Houston, there's Atlanta, and then there's LA is not a indoor stadium, but it is covered at least. So while you may get the heat of LA in the summertime, you won't get the rain delaying things because it is an enclosed stadium, except for the outside, except for the sides, which are still outdoors. So they'll have to work on figuring out the match schedule and putting some of the games at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock inside those stadiums, at least as many as possible, because we don't want complaints about the weather. But as Americans, we're used to it. It's, summers are only getting hotter and more humid, and the weather is becoming more volatile. So it's something that they're going to have to deal with. They should be prepared to factor those in now with regards to weather delays, with whether it be rain, hydration breaks. Hydration breaks should be mandatory for all the games. There's no stadium that's going to be cool enough where hydration breaks won't matter. So put those in, factor that into the timing of these games, and let's rock with it. Hopefully they've also learned that they need to provide more education and more information about how attending these matches are going to go and how they're going to be different than normal sporting events. Because I think a lot of Americans who have not been to a World Cup are finding that it's, hey, it's in our backyard, we should go. But it's not like going to a Wizards game. It's not like going to a Pirates baseball game. It's not like going to see the Eagles play. Like, there are a lot of other things that you have to learn about. Namely, people are going to need passports because passports are going to be the most accepted form of identification at this World Cup. Driver's licenses aren't going to necessarily work. You could try it, but the last thing you want to do is pay all this money for a ticket, show up at the stadium, and not have the required identification to get in and be stuck outside, burning a hole in your pocket with the ticket because you didn't bring a passport. So again, if you have a passport that is set to expire, renew it. If you don't have a passport, I would advise getting one, because when you leave and go to Canada and go to Mexico, that's going to be the only thing that is allowed inside if they ask for any form of identification. And in the United States, it's supposed to be the same way. So that is another detail. The security getting in will start at some cases up to a mile from the stadium. So have some comfortable shoes, be prepared to walk, be prepared to be outside in the heat and wait in long lines, and to be patient. But that information needs to get to fans so that they can prepare, because we're going to have kids going who may not be as patient as adults. You got people who are going to be going out and seeing the sights, and all of a sudden they're going to say, yeah, I can show up with half an hour to go and get into the stadium like normal. It's not going to be like that. People are going to need to get to go through the process early to get into the stadium so that they are in their seat when those teams come out and those national anthems are played. So again, FIFA needs to provide that kind of information. They also need to provide information so that these plans can be made. This is not normal for us to be less than a year away from the World Cup and have very limited information about fan fests, travel guides, tickets, and everything else. So the fact that I'm coming to you the 1st of August to give you some of this information and not all of it is not normal. And as the months continue to roll by, FIFA needs to continue to put this information out so fans can be prepared, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Because there are people who are going to be coming to the United States for the first time. They're going to need to know how to get around. They're going to need to understand that you can't just hop on a train like they may be able to do back in their country and go anywhere in the country. They need to understand how the infrastructure works, how food works, all of these little things. And I think that's where the individual venues and the individual host committees for these cities can be out in front of this to welcome people to their city. But also, again, it's going to be the same for us. There's people, I have not been to Vancouver, for example. I am looking forward to hopefully getting to Vancouver for a World Cup match next summer. Maybe after that US game in Seattle, if I can get a ticket. So I want to know what it's like to be in Vancouver at a normal time. Where can I go? What can I see? What can I do? And I need to know how entry into BC Place is going to look. Like, what's that going to look like? And I obviously can find that information out. I'm very smart. I can do that. But there's some people who are going to need to be explained for a couple of times on how this is going to work. And again, unlike other World Cups, you have to learn the customs and cultures for every single country. It's not just one. So fans coming here are going to need to learn about how it's going to be different between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, how entry is going to work, how security is going to work. What can you do? What can't you do? The rules and regulations for local venues and local cities. So that's, again, something that they could do very, very quickly so that people can have that information in their back pocket as they start to plan this thing out. When the draw happens on December 5th, I should say, people are going to know, hey, I'm going to these 3 cities for the group stage, or our team is going to be there. So I need to learn as much as I need to learn about those 3 cities so that I am ready to go. And FIFA, the World Cup committees should be out in front of providing that information. It shouldn't be on someone like me or other fans out there that are providing this information. It should come from the source. And so I'm hoping that they take that lesson from the Club World Cup, which they didn't do a good job about educating people about that tournament and how it was supposed to run. Hopefully they take that lesson and apply it to making sure that people understand what the 2026 World Cup is going to be about, because it's going to be unlike any other World Cup that we've ever seen. So I hope they take that lesson. I hope they take the lessons about the weather. I hope they take the lessons about the pricing of tickets and the pricing of everything. And I hope they learn those lessons and apply them to this World Cup. But again, your mileage is going to vary on some of these responses by FIFA and by everybody else. So that's all that we have for now. I will continue and happily will continue to answer questions like these on this show on future episodes. So if you have questions about the World Cup, you have questions about issues facing American soccer, if you have questions about this process and how it unfolds, please email me, usasoccercast@gmail.com. I'm happy to address those on the show so that, again, I'm just one person. I don't have all the answers, but I will fight like hell to provide as much information as I possibly can to make it where you, the listener, have all the information that you need to make these decisions that you need to make about this World Cup, whether you're going to go, what games you're going to go to, how you apply for tickets, and everything else in between. But that will do it for episode 158 of the USA Soccer Cast. Thank you for listening. Remember, you can find us on Blue Sky and YouTube. Follow us on both at USA Soccer Cast. Subscribe, rate, and review our shows. It helps us get in front of new people and is greatly appreciated. Tell your friends about us, and finally, check out our affiliate links and our stimulus store. We have everything you need to watch the beautiful game and follow your teams, and your support helps support the show. Linktree.com/USA Soccercast for all of those. We'll talk to you again soon, y'all. Peace.